12 teams in 12 days rolls along. I'm Bobby Broyles along with Rob Washburn, as today we will be previewing Delaware, a winning season in Coach Rocco's first year at the helm, and a lot of preseason predictions see the Blue Hens making a big jump into the playoffs in 2018.
I don't think there's any way to overstate the impact that Danny Rocco made in year one. Not just a 7-4 record and nearly a playoff berth, but the overall change in the culture around the program and the belief in the expectation that Delaware football can return to the days when it was one of the most successful programs in all of FCS. Now, for the Blue Hens to achieve those goals, the offense needs to improve. Delaware ranks second in the CAA with more than 190 yards per game on the ground, and they are loaded in the backfield with 240-pound wrecking ball Kenai Kane, as well as Kareem Williams and several other returnees. There's good size and experience up front, so the holes should be there. The key will be making strides in a passing attack that generated less than 125 yards per game. J.P. Caruso is the returning starter at quarterback, and the Blue Hens have brought in Boston College transfer Darius Wade. Whoever wins the job will have some playmakers to throw to, with top receiver Jamie Jarman, former quarterback Joe Walker, and preseason All-CA tight end Charles Scarf. If Delaware can increase its production through the air, the offense could be primed for a big year.
Here is Coach Rocco on his offense and even addresses the quarterback competition underway at training camp.
Well, I'll kind of start with the offense. I think it starts with your offensive line, and I feel really good about, 8 or more guys that I feel can play winning football. And, very seldom at this FCS level do you really feel like you got more than 8. But I feel good about that. 3 tackles, 3 guards, 2 centers, plus a couple guys that have experience and can contribute. They're big, they're physical. Our receiving core is very veteran. You look at Vinny Papali, it's the best he's looked since I've been here. Jamie Jarman, obviously very talented, very gifted. We all know what Joe Walker's capable of doing out there. Plus we had 3 young players play receiver for us last year in Pitts, McElhaney, and Coleman. So I feel good about that. Scarf at tight end, MJ Kehoe, and the backfield is deep. In particular here with Williams and Kenai Kane, Corey Sproul, Dejon Lee will be elevated this year. So it comes down to the quarterback position and what kind of player are we going to get out of the quarterback. And, I think, the statement from afar is I feel a lot better about the depth. I feel a lot better about the options that we have. I think we have viable options, and I'm excited about that. It's got to sort itself out here this summer. J.P. Caruso is minimal work in the spring with a shoulder injury. I'm hopeful that he's cut loose here in August. I'm not positive he will be. Darius Wade obviously showed some real signs and some flashes in the spring. Pat Kehoe is about as steady and consistent and efficient as anybody, So we've got some options here, and I do think with Nolan Henderson and Anthony Paoletti, we've got the position aligned the way it needs to be aligned. Now it comes down to the production, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this all plays out here starting in camp on day 1.
This Blue Hens defense was once again the strength of this team last year. They return a lot of playmakers, especially at linebacker and in the secondary, that finished 3rd in total defense in the CAA in 2017.
Yeah, this is a defense that finished in the top 15 in the nation in both points and yards allowed last season, and 7 starters are back, so there's no reason to think that Delaware will suffer much of a drop-off. The group of linebackers is as good as it gets, with leading tackler Troy Reeder, who is preseason All-American, his younger brother Colby, who was the CAA Defensive Rookie of the Year, and Charles Bell, who was a first-team All-CA performer in 2016 but was injured last season. All 4 starters are also back in the secondary, led by Nasir Adderley, who made a team-high 5 interceptions a year ago and is a preseason candidate for the Buck Buchanan Award as the top defensive player in FCS. The big question mark is on the defensive line, where standouts Belial Nichols and Blaine Woodson are currently on the rosters of the Chicago Bears and the San Francisco 49ers. Now, if Delaware can shore up that area, it should be all set. One other area of strength is special teams, where kicker Frank Rago connected on 11 of 15 field goals, including 2 over 50 yards last season, and punter Nick Pritchard averaged nearly 41 yards and placed 25 balls inside the 20-yard line.
Once again, here's Coach Rocco on how the Blue Hens plan to address the defensive line.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent on our defensive side of the ball, a lot of experience. Some veteran players that are really invested in the program and really want to win. I think the dynamic that's a little different this year is our defensive line. with Bilal Nichols and Blaine Woodson kind of being the two guys that were really most prominent seniors last year that really contributed regularly. This year, I think it's going to be a little more by committee, defensive line by committee. We brought in a couple of student athletes to help us at the mid-year. I feel really good about this group. I feel really good about the depth of this group and this committee, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do for us. But you're probably going to have more guys getting their names called in the defensive line, a little more of a flow in substitution. But with that, I think we're going to get a lot of high energy, a lot of production, and a lot of fast play out of our defensive line.
As we mentioned earlier, Rob, this team was on the cusp of making the playoffs last season. Expectations for the Blue Hens even higher this year, in your opinion?
Yeah, there's no question that expectations are higher with the Blue Hens ranked in every preseason top 25 poll. But I think they relish that challenge, and they're determined to end a playoff drought that dates back to 2010. Now, it's going to be important for Delaware to take advantage of 3 straight home games to start the year, including their CA football opener versus Rhode Island in Week 1, before heading to defending national champion North Dakota State on September 22nd. All the pieces are in place for a successful year if Delaware can improve its passing attack offensively and continue its dominant defense by filling the holes on the defensive line. Danny Rocco was able to build some momentum in Newark in year 1, and it'll be fun to see what year 2 brings.
As you mentioned, Rob, the Blue Hens begin the season Thursday night, August the 30th, at home versus Rhode Island. It will be the first CA football game of the week of the season on Sports Live at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, also be sure to check out cafootball.com and our social media outlets as we go on one-on-one with a student athlete from the Blue Hens.
On Wednesday, Rob and I will preview Elon as we hear from Kurt Signetti as the Phoenix look to build on a successful 2017 campaign.